Hey everyone, and welcome to the How We Hustle podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Tanya, and we invite you to join us in our unfiltered conversation about the real life hustle of being an entrepreneur. Okay, so we haven't really chatted a lot about what either one of us has been up to or how we got here in a very long time. And this podcast has been running for over 3 years now. So I think we're right in time to share a little bit about the journey that we've been on. So Michael, I would love for you to share with our audience a little bit about how you came to be doing the LinkedIn stuff that you're doing now. Like, I think that your story is really powerful and inspiring to other people. And I don't think they've ever really heard it all together.
Yeah, I guess one of the reasons is we changed. We've been doing this podcast for 3 years, and I am definitely in a very different place. My entrepreneurship takes a very different form now than what it did when we started. And right now, I am a LinkedIn coach. I help coaches, consultants, service providers really take LinkedIn, to the next level. But this isn't something that I thought I was going to get into, 2 years ago. And it's something that I've adapted into and kind of saw an opportunity and moved in that direction. So
maybe you can share with them kind of how you got there, like about your old business, about how how the transition happened.
Yeah. So the last decade of me being an entrepreneur was me running an online writing company, which I sold 2.5 years ago. And, we've talked about this on previous episodes, but the reason I wanted to move out of that business was just because I had been doing it for so long. It wasn't really interesting me. And I wanted to reinvent myself. And at the time, what I thought I wanted to do was I thought I wanted to help people write their books to develop themselves as authority figures and grow their business. That seemed like something that would mix my desire to be an entrepreneur with my creative appreciation of writing and helping people put their books together. So I started doing that, and it was a struggle on a few sides. Number one side was it was a much different client acquisition process than I had been used to. I was now targeting high ticket or high end people that were going to pay me a lot of money, as opposed to before, which was more low ticket, low end, orders that were based on quantity over quality. So I had struggled to get new customers, but the customers that I did get, I realized that the process that I had romanticized this business in my head, it wasn't necessarily, I wasn't as into it as I thought I would be. So here I had just sold my business because I wanted to start this new business. And, over the course of the next, it didn't just happen overnight, but over the course of the next year and a half, as I started working with more book clients, I started to realize that wasn't really the type of business that I wanted to get into. And long story short, the reason was I just felt like I was being more of a project manager and, more of a freelancer than an entrepreneur. I didn't really feel like, I was just working with clients one-off, and every client was high impact, high touch point. A lot of my clients were annoying. Okay. And I don't mean that against them. It's just like the process of writing a book involves a lot of annoying little parts. And I just, it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I was looking for ways that I could create a business, much like the one you have, where you're helping a lot of people, but you're also leveraging your time and, charging premium prices because you're really providing great outcomes and helping people that need your help get transformations in their life and their business. So I started looking for other ways that I could create a business, And one of the opportunities that I had really opened my eyes to was LinkedIn. Because when I was trying to get clients for my writing business, I really leaned on LinkedIn. And when I started using LinkedIn, I realized that I didn't know how to use LinkedIn, and also that other people didn't really know how to use LinkedIn. So I really immersed myself in, learning a LinkedIn strategy that is really based on, the same kind of things that you and I have always been talking about, which is, you know, funnel strategy, copywriting, all of the same things that we've been talking about on this podcast for the last few years. But no one has really, not, I shouldn't say no one, but there's a big void in the LinkedIn universe. A lot of people even avoid LinkedIn. I know, Tanya, you kind of avoid LinkedIn, and a lot of, especially online marketers, they don't really think of LinkedIn in the same way they think of Facebook and Instagram. And that creates this huge opportunity, because LinkedIn is a huge opportunity. So without me kind of going off on a tangent, I started seeing that there was a huge opportunity to help people. I had figured out, using my book company, really ways to make LinkedIn work for my business. And as I started doing that, other people started approaching me and saying, "Hey, how are you doing that? Can you help me?" And that is sort of the direction that I decided to go on, is helping people use LinkedIn, because, as a business coach, I can tick those boxes that I talked about a few minutes ago, which is not being a project manager, but being able to work with lots of people, at the same time in a group program where I'm leveraging my time, but also, helping other people get very great transformations in their business. So yeah, that is really kind of how I got to where I am. Now what I do is I run a group program where I work with coaches, consultants, service providers, and show them how to not only maximize LinkedIn, but start to use LinkedIn in a way that really will expose them on that platform and attract the right clients to them on that platform. And but one of the biggest kind of lessons that I've had to learn, and you and I were talking about this before we recorded this, but it was about adapting. 2.5 years ago, when I sold my business, I had no idea that I'd be doing what I'm doing now, but that's because I've had to adapt. And there's been a lot of pain along the way. There's a lot of pain on two fronts, I would say. There's a lot of pain sort of psychologically when you come to realize that the business you thought you were running isn't going to materialize like you wanted it to. So in that way, there's, you've gone around telling everyone that you run this book publishing business, and then you realize to yourself that you don't actually really want to run that business. There's a little bit of an ego cost that you have to sort of be like, no, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. And when you decide that you don't want to do something you've been doing, you ultimately, sort of have to admit to yourself and to others that, what it seems like on the outside is that you were wrong, but that's obviously, as an entrepreneur, that's not what it is. You're pivoting, you're adapting, you're figuring things out. But, it's actually hard, especially when you're trying to have relationships with your family, your friends, significant others, whoever it is, that maybe they don't have that entrepreneurial mindset. So they don't necessarily understand adaptation in the same way that you do. You understand that you have to pivot, you have to adapt, and that's all part of the process. But for trying to create relations with, not trying to create, but trying to maintain relations. When 6 months ago you were saying, "Hey, I'm doing this," and now 6 months later they're saying, I'm doing something completely different. There's that, and then there's the cost of walking away from time and money that you've put into something, right? When you change your business, you obviously are walking away from a certain investment. The key, and I think everyone who's an entrepreneur understands this at some level, is that there's no such thing as a bad investment. You know what I mean? There's no such thing as bad experience, because I'm so passionate about what I'm doing now, and I'm so passionate about the business I've built, the business I'm building, and where I'm going with it, and who I'm going to help with it. But there's no way that I could have gotten to where I am today if it hadn't been for the journey and the adaptation and the pivots that I've made, and everything I've learned from all of the coaching that I've taken over the last 2 years. And that's another interesting thing too, is like, I sold my business. I put myself in a fortunate position where I could invest in coaching and, with you, Tanya, and also with others. But coaching is interesting because it's not the kind of thing, it's deceiving, because often you want to get an immediate return. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with hiring a coach and saying, I want to get short-term results. That's fine. But it takes hindsight to really see how the value of coaching pays off 1, 2, 3 years down the road. I can look at where I'm at today, and I can see how investments in myself that I made 1 year ago, 2 years ago, that maybe at the time didn't seem to have paid off, are paying off, down the road. And that's really, I think that's sort of a bigger picture lesson to learn about entrepreneurship, that I don't know if the term is you can't see the forest for the trees. I don't know if I'm using that right, but when you're in the moment, it can be really easy to see how far it seems like you haven't come, or how far along, or how you are not where you want to be. But when you get hindsight and you can look back on kind of where you've come from, you can really get the benefit of understanding how the pieces fit together and why there's benefit in that pain you felt, and how that pain or discomfort, or those days, those hard days, even though in the moment they feel like they are not getting you anywhere, they are, and it's like all of the things that I didn't think were working over the last 2 years, or all of the setbacks that I thought I had, I can really make better sense of them now. That I'm where I am now. And that's sort of something that has kept me going and will continue to keep me going, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I just see that as like the universe redirecting you. Like it's just been redirecting you onto the path that you were meant to go. And when you look back, like you would never have been on this path if you hadn't gone through those other things that you went through. Like you wouldn't have landed here if you hadn't been through like the book writing thing, if you hadn't had your writing business.
And it's everything I've done up to this point, like helping people write books to create them as authority figures. It's all part of the same beast, if you will, which is marketing and sales and learning persuasion and learning communication. It's really, what I have been doing for the last 10 years of my career, for my entrepreneurship career, is just working with communication. So learning communication, same with you, Tanya, it's learning marketing, learning sales. It's really all about communication. And then it's how do you add value to that and be able to help other people with it. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but what I'm trying to say for myself is that what I'm doing now is really just the evolution of what I have been doing over the last number of years. And I'm just choosing a way to package it to help a certain type of person with that knowledge, with that expertise.
Yeah. And I also think it's important to note that like things, yes, it evolves, but what you think you might like, what you think you're going to do, what you think you desire might not feel how you expect it to feel when you're actually doing it. Like just because things look a certain way from the outside doesn't necessarily mean that they feel that way when you're the one running that business. Like we all look at businesses and think, oh, wow, I'd love to have a business like that. But you might not. Like you might not have any idea what goes into running that business. And when you do, you might not really like it. And then you're allowed to change and evolve. Like what was our favorite thing or our favorite shirt or our favorite meal doesn't have to be your favorite shirt or your favorite meal for the rest of your life. Like, and neither does your business. Like you're allowed to grow and change and try things. And the more you try things, the more you discover what you like and what you don't like.
I think that's I think giving yourself permission to change and not beating yourself up for it, because it's easy to beat yourself up for it. It's easy, when you had this idea in your head as to what you were going to be, and then when you change your mind, it really requires it can require some sort of self-reflection. But give yourself permission to change, because that's what entrepreneurship is. It's a journey where you are always changing, and that's really a lesson that it's easy to say, but it's a lesson I've had to learn and really understand how to put that into practice and give myself permission to make changes. Like, for example, with my webinar that I run now, I have recorded my webinar probably like 60 times and it's funny because one day I will record it and I will say, my webinar is perfect. And then 2 days later, I'll be like, no, I want to change it. But it's like, well, how can I possibly want to change it when 2 days later I thought it was perfect? So it's like, do I second guess the fact that I thought I was perfect 2 days ago? Or it's like, no, you have to allow yourself to change and not necessarily fight it.
But that also goes for anything that you do. Like my sales pages, for example, like for my programs or in my funnels or an email, like one day I'll write them and they're good enough because like I'm a recovering perfectionist. So I just say like done is better than perfect and I let it fly. But in like a week or a month or a year, I might say, you know what, I'd like to change this. This doesn't sound like me anymore, or I want to refocus this into a different area, or I want to add something, or I want to switch it up. Like, I think also part of the journey that we haven't really talked a lot about yet is the like importance and like the power of testing over time. Like, you actually need people to go through the experience, the course, the funnel, whatever, the sales call, everything. They have to actually go through the experience to get real feedback, not just like, testing with somebody like, hey, can you go through this as an
Yeah,
example?
you cannot fake, like you can't skip actually having to go through the process. Like, there's nothing that will make you better like experience. You can't fake experience. And it sounds like an obvious thing to say, but like, there's been so many times where I have tried to skip the testing phase, and every single time, you can't do it. I know, Tanya, when I was working with you, you were saying you have to do customer research before you put your offer together. And it's
Yeah,
like,
because
it's
you
so
love
easy to
skipping
say.
that. You love
It's
skipping that part. And
it's so easy to say. It's like, no, I don't need to do customer research. I already know what my customers want.
yeah, but the thing is, he loves skipping that, everyone, just so we're clear. But the thing is, then you have to test even more. So if you want to cut some of the testing, not all of the testing, but if you want to cut some of the testing down and hit more nails on the head from the start, then you have to speak to real people. You have to do the research. You have to connect with people and ask, like, what are they looking for? Because otherwise, you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And I don't have time to throw spaghetti at the wall. And it's more frustrating because I think also how many, like, our resilience to no, like, yes, like every no gets you closer to your next yes, but also every no is like a 50% yes or no. So like if you put yourself out there and you got a no, like there was also the 50% chance you would have gotten a yes. You have to get a lot of no's, but most of us only have so much resistance or resilience, I guess, not resistance, resilience to a no. So, how many no's before you actually give up? Like, let's at least try to cut that down as much as we can, Because not all of us, like, some people have the story of, oh, I got 100 no's before I got my first yes. But, like, I mean, knowing myself, like, I think that would be really tough and that would be a lot of time. Like, I've heard people's story that they're like, yeah, for like a year and a half, I never heard a yes. I got a no and I had 3 calls every week. Like, that's a lot of no's. And a lot of people would have given up before then. So there is a way to cut down the number of no's that you get. You can't exclude all of them because if you're not getting any no's, by the way, then you're also not putting yourself out there enough. But if we could limit them, like we can fast track the success and limit the amount of, not like the amount of no's that you feel and get and disappointment that you experience, because just getting a no doesn't mean that your offer or your course or your program isn't valuable or that your product, like, people want it as long as you have spoken to people and they said they wanted it. But people want it. It's just, how do you message it? How do you get it out there? How do you market it? And so, that part takes time. Like Facebook
That's
ads.
been the hardest part for me.
Yeah. And like that, the Facebook ads is also a part that, you can't skip that. Like, there's no manual. There's obviously people that do it every day, like, can give you some tips, but there's no matter how many tips you have, no matter how many secrets you have about it, no one gets past the testing phase. Nobody. And sometimes it works right off the bat. I have clients it works right off the bat, but majority of people it doesn't work right off the bat. And like, how long and how like committed are you to sticking with it and figuring out how to get it working? Because if you do, then it's amazing, but it takes time, you know? And that's the thing, like, you've been really good about sticking with it, Mike, which is
But
why.
it's taken me, like, my program is like, it's gotten a certain level of momentum now, but it has taken me 1 year of like trial and error to, I don't want to say to get it, like, but it took me so much. I have changed my messaging and my offering and like so much over the last year. And I never thought it would take this much kind of testing, but in a sense, it's a beautiful thing. Like that's what makes it so great. That's what makes I'm so passionate about not only what I'm doing, but like the quality of what I have, because it's just I've adapted. And if it hadn't been for all those no's, then the quality of my offering would be so much worse. And it's only because the marketplace like gave me so many no's that I was able to get better and deliver a better product. And I still get no's now. And that's fine. But like, it's been such a beautiful, painful process that,
I also
has
that those
yeah.
no's though, Mike, are not necessarily no's forever. Like, they might have been no's for right now, right? Some people might say no and they'll come back later.
It's actually really interesting because like when someone does come back, like I was telling you, I had someone enroll a few days ago who was a later. Like, it's true. People, I sell all the time to people who are on my list, and I literally forgot they were there. Not that I ever really not that I remember everyone on my list, but it's like I'll get a sale and I'll look them up and it'll be like, yeah, they joined my opt-in 3 months ago, and it's like,
or years
cool.
ago.
Yeah,
Like, I have people that have been on my list or been following me for years.
yeah.
And
It's
then
easy to watch my Facebook like active, and be like, okay, this person opted, opted in 2 days ago. Why haven't they bought yet? But it's also, like, this person might buy in 3 months, and that's fine. So
yeah, and I also think that's an important point to notice as well around like the buyer process. Like, yes, this is Mike's process of getting to this place, but also let's not forget that people purchasing are going through a process themselves, that they have to see your course multiple times. Like, that's why we see commercials over and over again is, you have to see things multiple times to decide, is this actually the thing that I want? And maybe it's not right now, but when I am at that place, I'm going to remember you if you were in my face all the time.
yeah. And, something I've also kind of realized, and when I say realize, it sounds like it's obvious, but you don't really realize it until you kind of realize it. And that is that, like, it's hard to be successful. You know what I mean? It's hard to be the best at what you do. It's like, if you want people to think of you as like the expert, you can't just, you got to put in the time and like all of the pain. Like, for example, like I'm at the point where I'm at now with my program. And when 2020 starts, the next year, I want to get to the point where I'm doing a lot more live events and people are reaching out to me and saying, hey, come do a live event. That's the next level of where I want to be. And what I do is I'll go on Instagram, for example, and I'll see some of the people who are where I want to be. They are up on stages. They're doing what I want to do. And it's like, but it's the process. You have to go through. Some people get through it quicker than others, and some people get discovered overnight on YouTube. But for the most part, you have to go through the hard times to get to be the best at what you do. And, so if you're going through, if you're putting in that, that hard work right now and you don't feel like you're getting the results you want to be getting, or you're not getting that short-term feedback, like it's okay, because you have to do that hard work at the beginning. You have to feel that pain. So when I do finally get to there, or when I do, it's like the further you get ahead, the more that what happened in what happened in the past makes sense, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I definitely think though that you also don't see other people's journey to get there. Like it's easy to
that's really what I mean.
ahead of you.
It's easy to look at someone else's highlight reel and not realize that they went through the same grind that you went in, that that you're going through now. And if you don't put in the grind, it's going to be much harder to get to that highlight reel. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing wrong with working hard without while you're just testing and experiencing and adapting. And that's really what I've been doing. That's been characterized my journey for the last 2 years, is just responding to feedback. And it doesn't always feel like you're getting anywhere in the short term, but when you look back with the last year, the last 2 years, it really makes a lot more sense, and you can sort of better contextualize where you're going in the future by taking a more of a 30,000 foot view of it, as opposed to just focusing on what's not working this week or this month or whatever.
So if you could talk to Mike of 2 years ago, who was just opening up a new business, what would you tell him? What would be your advice for him?
Oh, it's such a hard question, because on the one hand, I would like to say don't make any of those mistakes. But at the same time, it's how do you say that? It's every decision I made it for the right reasons at the time. But if I would just say don't give up. And I never have, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I would just say don't give up, keep going, keep trying. And you know what I would also say? I would say don't hesitate to adapt. Because I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make. It's the mistake that I've probably made, is you don't give yourself permission to change. And therefore, I even heard Gary Vee talking about this in the same sense, in as far as a job. He's like, if you get a new job and you hate the job, don't feel like you have to stay at the job because you hate it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just start adapt. And that's sort of the same message, is just because you tried something, don't have to stick with it. You don't have to read the end of the book if the first half of the book was no good, but give yourself permission to do that, because that is the hard part, is giving yourself permission to almost admit to yourself that it's time to do things differently. I don't know if that was really some overarching advice, but there's no real simple answer. It's just don't give up and, roll with the punches. But as long as you you can fall down, but as long as you don't stay down. And this is advice that I continually need to give myself. It's not like mindset is, it's a beast that you really need to tackle once, every single day, because if you don't, it can really get the best of you. And, I think Tanya and I, we both had moments with each other where our own mindsets have challenged us. And,
well, I think that mindset is something that never really goes away. I look at your mindset as like a muscle. If you don't practice, if you don't pay attention to it, then it's going to stop being very strong. And you can't just say, oh, well, I did that last week and then think that it's going to be fine. I think it's something you have to consistently keep in check and keep practicing and making sure that you're feeding it positive and powerful, empowering messages, and making sure that you believe, because we can do an episode about that another day. But the woo, I think, is not something that you can get away from. The belief in your business, the belief in yourself, the belief in what's possible is just as important as what the actions you're taking.
Yeah. So, it's been a great journey since the last 2 years. There's been there's been challenges, but at the end of the day, I don't really know what else I could have possibly done in this world. That this is my path. This is the path that the universe has led me on, and I'm excited for 2020 and beyond. The next 10 years are going to be, wow, who knows what's going to happen in the next 10 years.
When I look back on how much has changed in 3 years since we started this podcast, I can't even imagine what would happen in 10 years or even 5 years. Like 3 years ago, I was still working a full-time job. Like I was like, you were still running your other business. Like it's crazy how much can happen in such a, when you really look back on it, it's not that long of a time. Like it obviously feels like a long time when you think like, oh, a year is such a long time. But when you really look back on it, like a year is not that long in retrospect.
And also, I think, the fact that we've been doing this for over 3 years, which seems mind-blowing, but is accountability. Like you and I can't believe we've been doing this for 3 years, but that's a testament to, you and I keeping each other accountable on this, on this journey, because, there are at least times I probably would have fallen off had it not been for the accountability factor there. So that's something that I would definitely speak highly of as well. You can align yourself with someone else that is, will hold you accountable. I think that is definitely a good step towards achieving or getting wherever you want to get is putting some accountability in there.
Yeah. And like, I literally just shared this on my group coaching call yesterday, that it's crazy that like I called you one day in the car and was like, yo, we maybe should start a podcast. And like, we're like, oh, we'll see if anyone will ever listen to it. And then it just like has been going since then, like so crazy. Like ideas you get one day randomly, you never know. Again, like just try them, see what happens. Like what's the worst that could happen? Like we were like, well, whatever, we'll try a podcast. And literally it's been going for 3 years. So we're very grateful for all of our listeners and everyone who's stuck with us for this long. And we appreciate all of you guys, but it's so crazy that it's been 3 years.
Yeah. And, things change every year. So enjoy the journey. That's the real life hustle of being an entrepreneur, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you want to, I would love for everyone who's listening to go check out what I am up to right now with my LinkedIn coaching. So if you are, looking to use LinkedIn as a tool to grow your business, check it out. So another problem I've been having is, I use this domain, LinkedInFunnelHacker.com. I point everyone in that direction, but I'm hearing that if you have your security settings on high, it might redirect. So you can either go to LinkedInFunnelHacker.com or LinkedSalesPros.com. That's LinkedSalesPros.com. And of course, the address will be in the show notes as well. So anything you want to wrap it up with, Tanya?
No, I'm just excited to share my story on the next one, and definitely excited for everyone to go and check out your webinar. So click it, check it out, share it with us on your Instagram. We love seeing and hearing from you guys. Podcasting can be super lonely. Like, thank goodness we have each other, but without hearing from our audience, we never get to know like what you took away from this, what shifted for you, even your experiences. We love hearing your experiences. So definitely reach out to us on Instagram is the best way to reach us. Mike, you're at?
I'm at LinkedIn Michael.
And I'm at Wholehearted Business Coach on Instagram. Definitely reach out to us. Share if you love this episode on your Instagram stories. And we hope to hear from you guys soon. And check us out on the next episode.
See you on the next episode.